It is always a pleasure filming Lasha Talakhadze, the strongest weightlifter of all time. And this competition at the 2020 Roma World Cup was no exception at all. In fact, Lasha's attendance at this competition was a large contributor to me flying out to film in the first place. With the way that the Olympic qualification is set up, Lasha didn't need to actually compete here. With 4 other enormous totals under his belt over the prior 15 months, he could have simply weighed in and it wouldn't have affected his chances at Olympic qualification at all. Now, with over 5,000 Robi points to his name out of just 4 totals, Lasha has more points than any other lifter in the world. Now, just a quick summary of Robi points for those of you who don't fully understand them. Robi points are awarded based on one's total. The greater your total, the more Robi points you get. If, for example, you equal the world record from when the qualification started in 2018, you receive 1,000 points. If you total less than the world record, you receive fewer points, and if you total more, you receive more points. The Robi points to total ratio, however, isn't linear. It's actually logarithmic. So 1,000 points are awarded to an equal world record performance, but only 100 points are awarded to a total of 50% of the world record. I.e., each additional kilo gives you more Robi points than the prior kilo. Okay, so this is just getting complicated now, so I'll leave it there. You can read the full Weightlifting House Tokyo qualification guide, complete with a TLDR section if you want to nerd out a little bit more. I'll put the link in this description for that, along with links to the new Weightlifting House t-shirt and to Lasha's full training session before this competition, which is exclusive to the Weightlifting House Patreon page. So, back to Lasha's qualification standings. Lasha has over 5,000 points based off 4 competitions, averaging over 1,250 points per competition, with as many as 1,370 in a single competition. That's how many world records he has utterly destroyed. Anyway, because of this, I presumed that he would simply weigh in and call it a day, but that's not what happened at all. As Lasha began warming up, people began crowding around the backstage platforms and the competition platforms, as well as up in the stands behind him. A bit of background about this: the Roma World Cup was held somewhere on the outskirts of Rome, and this session just happened to fall on a Friday evening. And as such, word had gotten out amongst people who lived there that the strongest weightlifter in the world was competing that evening. And so it was as though the whole town had just descended on what had been, for the previous week, a pretty calm competition. The excitement was growing and the background noise of people talking was massively raised. In fact, you can't really see, but just behind where I'm filming and to the right, there are hundreds of people in the stands just watching Lasha. They're not even watching the competition platform, they're there just to see him. As it happened, the locals didn't really understand the standard weightlifting etiquette, and fair enough, but it meant that people were crowding all around, trying to get into the backroom, and really just getting in my way as accredited media for the competition. It got so bad, actually, that the IWF officials had to remove everyone including me, and so I had to speak to them and explain that I had been filming the whole time throughout the last week, and that I'd been promised access to the back room by the Italian Weightlifting Federation, but they just weren't having it. And so, despite arguing as best as I could, they kicked everyone out. And once everyone else had been kicked out, I basically just snuck back and squatted in this one spot, filming from behind the side of the competition platform where the IWF people just couldn't see me. And whenever an IWF official appeared, I would have to turn back behind the wall and just wait until they'd gone. After a while, though, the Italian Federation guys came back to stop more locals from trying to take selfies with Lasha, and they noticed me and they did finally allow me to come back to a slightly better spot to shoot. Regardless, I had to get the great man himself on camera, and fortunately, I managed just that. Now this 190 here was Lasha's final attempt before he went out onto the platform. After Lasha's backroom lifts, I ran out onto the front of the platform, set up my other camera to get some high quality videos from the Weightlifting House Instagram, and then began filming him from a more kind of in the thick of it type spot. And as you could tell, the energy in the competition venue was extremely high. People were chanting for Lasha, cheering loudly, and altogether just increasing the pressure and intensity of the situation. And I really think that Lasha feeds off that. He knows that he's the greatest, and he knows that people are here to see him, and he loves that. And then he came out for 215 kilos on his third attempt. We are so spoiled with Lasha. A 200 kilo opener is just a minimum to meet our expectations of what he should be opening at. And if he hasn't hit 210 on his second attempt, we are just disappointed. Lasha snatched 215 kilos on this day, a weight that we've only seen actually by 3 weightlifters in history. 215 kilos or more as a weight has only ever happened 11 times. 9 of those times by Lasha. And he makes it look routine, unchallenging, just part of a bigger plan that only he and his coach, George Yasinidze, truly understand the scope of. And here we get to see Lasha's excellent rack position with 70 kilos. I think it takes a little bit more like 100 kilos to finally reach his chest. I have to say again that Lasha just is my favourite weightlifter to film. I'm just always in awe of him. He is a legend. He is the only weightlifter on the men's side who is doing things that have never been done before. He's always pushing the boundaries in a way that no one else is simply capable of doing. And for that reason, we're not excited to necessarily see what he can do. We're excited to see what a human is capable of doing. As much as I love filming the Chinese, Liu Jiazhen, Shi Ziyong, and spending time with guys who I actually know quite well, like Mezo Hasona, there's a difference when you're filming guys who are still, to some extent, in the shadows of their 1980s forefathers. But when you're filming Lasha, any of those guys would be looking up in awe at what he is capable of doing. The truth is, Lasha will likely never be challenged again. It would take the resurrection of the greats, the Pizarenkos, Kurloviches and Taranenkos to give Lasha a run for his money. And honestly, I think Lasha would just make light work of them. His 484 kilo total from the 2019 World Championships is so far out of their reach. Even competitions like this, competitions in which he doesn't need to perform too much, where he can just comfortably hit a 215 snatch and a 255 kilo clean and jerk. Even these put him above all but a couple of the single greatest performances of the single greatest weightlifters ever. It might seem like an insignificant performance, but documentation of competitions like this and training sessions just like the one I uploaded to Patreon allow us to see virtuosity in our sport. To see how the greatest ever acts in the back room, tapers for competition, and focuses on each and every lift. Now, for those of you who are interested and have noticed that Lasha keeps looking up, kind of in my direction, he's actually watching the big screen where he can see what the athletes on the competition platform are doing. He's basically timing his warm-ups. He waits until someone is finished lifting, and then he goes, and that way he's able to keep a slightly more uniformed approach to his warm-up attempts. And you can see throughout this video, his coach George Yasinidze, the 2004 Olympic champion, constantly giving Lasha technical cues. Lasha is the epitome of strength meeting technique. He moves beautifully, and he is terrifyingly strong. In fact, I think that this is the reason why the Georgian team is doing so well at the moment. Their technical work and just the way that they move is second to none, I think, in the world at the moment. I mean, if you just look at other members of the Georgian national team, like Revas Davitadze or Anton Plesnoy, you'll see that they move just as beautifully, if not more so, than Lasha. Even more enjoyable than a roaring crowd is a crowd that has been silenced by anticipation and excitement like this one so often was when Lasha came out to lift. You really could hear a pin drop during this competition at points. And I'm just sort of hoping that you can see that or hear that from this video. Lasha was the central focus of this entire room. And it was still even after this 245 that I really thought that Lasha might decline his third attempt and leave it there. But when I saw that he was sitting out the back, I realised that he was going to lift again, and so I started trying to calculate what he would need to break various totals. But on this occasion, the crowd could just no longer hold their silence, and they broke out into a roar of encouragement for Lasha. The whole city of Rome was on his side. The good news is, Lasha is on the start list for the European Championships, and he will be at the 2020 Olympics too. Lasha's legacy, I think, is still just getting started.